When last we left our soapy Lone Star residence, JR had successfully rooked Cliff Barnes into giving up his power in a fruitless attempt at running for office. Cliff tried to fight back by telling the press he fathered JR's son, but when a paternity test revealed that Cliff wasn't the father, he just looked petty and pathetic. JR's confederate in the scheme, Alan Beam, agreed to marry the tiny blonde thorn in JR's side, Lucy Ewing, and abscond with her to Chicago, where JR has set up a law practice for him. JR's wife Sue Ellen has started an affair with an equally powerful but well-adjusted cowboy named Dusty Farlow, and Bobby opened the door to an affair with his childhood sweetie, Jenna Wade, as his wife Pamela went to Paris on a business trip. Phew. These people have really gotten themselves into some jams. JR pressures Alan to up the timetable on Project Munchkin marriage. He also reveals that he knows all about Betty Lou. What, is JR not gonna spy on someone? Get real. He gives Alan a deadline of 2 weeks to set a date. Lucy hasn't given the wedding much thought though, and she doesn't seem all that excited. Even Muriel points out that Lucy is more interested in lit class than her own wedding. In fairness, she has a cute professor, and we all know how that story goes. We catch up with Cliff after the paternity test debacle, and I have to pause for a moment to point out the amazing set decoration. Let's see, going from far to near, we've got glasses and a dish towel on the dining room table, his jacket's draped over the armchair, the lampshade is askew, there are crumpled up clothes on the couch, a filthy pile of smelly rags in the middle of the couch. Oh, that's Cliff. Cliff thinks he's getting pizza, but instead he opens the door to a late 19th century governess who comes bearing only pity. Pam really wants to talk to Digger and convince him not to go to Galveston. Digger says he needs to feel useful, so she reluctantly offers to drive him to the bus station. Digger notes he doesn't fly unless he has to. That's wise, because even though flying is the safest form of travel in real life, it is the least safe on Dallas. Cliff and Digger share a warm goodbye.
Take care, yeah?
Sure.
Lucy, who apparently took shirt buttoning lessons from her Uncle Bobby, thinks that her lit professor is just the bee's knees. She talks about opening up her mind with Madame Bovary, but it really sounds like she just wants to help him straighten out his Longfellow. Muriel complains that Lucy is too focused on school and not enough on getting her MRS degree. Toxic femininity. It's a thing. Alan arrives and complains that Lucy keeps putting off all the wedding plans, and Lucy just bolts. At the ranch, Pam asks Bobby for help in pulling Cliff out of his funk, but Bobby blows her off because of the whole Cliff and the Ewings hating each other thing. Eventually, she's able to convince Bobby to find Cliff a job. She really just does not understand Cliff at all, does she? Inside, JR pesters Lucy about her degree and Alan Beam. We also get the sense that JR thinks that education is useless if you're a Ewing. Sue Ellen is openly affectionate with JR, leading him up to the bedroom, but when she gets there, it's all been a tease. We get a rare meta moment where Lucy's lit class is discussing Madame Bovary, and Lucy mentions the technique for drawing in the reader by building details. And this is exactly what the Dallas writers do with their female characters. Well, Sue Ellen anyway. This is also how the first 3 seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer work, with the Scoobies learning something in their class and then it becomes relevant later in the episode. Originally, I thought that Kettering was played by Grant Kramer of Hard Bodies fame, but that's Christopher Skinner, then husband of Victoria Principal. Good for him. Second, by the way, let me just read from the Britannica's summary of Madame Bovary, and in case you never had to read Madame Bovary in high school. Although Emma anticipates marriage as a life of adventure, she soon finds that her only excitement derives from the flights of fancy she takes while reading sentimental romantic novels. She grows increasingly bored and unhappy with her middle-class existence, and even the birth of their daughter Bertha brings Emma little joy. Grasping for idealized intimacy, Emma begins to act out her romantic fantasies and embarks on an ultimately disastrous love affair with Rodolphe, a local landowner. She makes enthusiastic plans for them to run away together, but Rodolphe has grown tired of her and ends the relationship. Anyway, that's probably not relevant to anything we're discussing here, I just thought it was interesting. Kristin is getting increasingly miffed that JR is ignoring her, and it's made worse when Luella pays a visit to the office. Don't forget, Kristin's position in Ewing Oil is as a temp while Luella is celebrating her honeymoon. JR is shocked to find that Bobby is helping Cliff Barnes with a job hunt, and he gets in a fantastic Larry Hagman line.
Would you buy your wife a piece of jewelry to placate her? It'd be a lot cheaper in the long run than doing her brother a favor.
Sue Ellen and Miss Ellie have a heartbreaking moment where Sue Ellen asks Ellie what she would do if Sue Ellen and John Ross were ever to leave South Fork. And Ellie is so distracted with her park battle that She thinks Sue Ellen is talking about JR settling down with the family off the ranch. Sue Ellen seems conflicted. More on this in a minute. And then, as if that's not enough, Jock swoops in and completely destroys JR's plan to get Lucy off the ranch when he arranges for Alan Beam to replace Har Smithfield and Smithfield and Bennett.
How would you like a partnership with Smithfield and Bennett?
Well,
I thought you would.
In a rare moment, both JR and Lucy are apoplectic over the news. JR tries to push Alan to turn it down, but Alan says he just couldn't say no. Alan suddenly gets up the gumption to stand up to JR, telling him he has a new daddy to provide for him. Alan does say the magic curse words that every character on Dallas uses to bring pain and destruction upon them.
You can't do anything to stop me.
Oh my god. Why did you do that?
Cliff does receive an offer from a local law firm, an entry-level position. When he finds out that it's Bobby Ewing pulling the strings, though, he blows up and refuses on principle.
You can take your legal assistant's job and stuff it.
Told ya. JR and Kristin finally have an open and frank discussion. JR tells her that it was exciting at first, but now he's bored with her. He doesn't even think she can be useful in the Alan Beam situation, even when she volunteers. JR tries to bribe Betty Lou Barker to come forward, but she tosses him out of the apartment. Bobby is no help either, telling JR to let Lucy make her own decisions. JR retorts that Lucy needs all the information available to make an informed decision, and holy balls, JR is right and Bobby is wrong. Kristin goes rogue and rats out Alan to Lucy, but Kristin is so untrustworthy that it backfires, and Lucy sets the date.
I came in like a wrecking ball.
JR blasts Kristin for such a clumsy move and says he wants Luella to come back and replace her so that she doesn't Dunning-Kruger her way into screwing up his schemes. She delivers a veiled threat in the heat of the moment before backing off.
I'd never do anything to hurt you, JR.
The lie detector test determined that was a lie.
After a heart-to-heart with Bobby, Lucy does break off the engagement to Alan. He also loses Betty Lou, who realizes that she is not okay being his side chick.
What a pisser.
Lucy tells the family she just didn't love Alan the way that you should if you're going to spend the rest of your life with someone, which triggers a look between Sue Ellen and JR. Sue Ellen again leads JR up to their room, again teasing him with the prospects of sex, and it's there where Sue Ellen reveals her trap. Her public affection is all for show, until she can get custody of John Ross. And we're out! The last-minute reveal of Sue Ellen's plan is certainly a banger as twists go, especially since it hit JR right in the two places he's vulnerable: lust and underestimating women. What I like about the last moment is that it reframes her conversation with Miss Ellie. At first, it's as though she was trying to weigh her decision, and the thought of breaking Miss Ellie's heart is part of the calculus of that decision. But we've seen in the few scenes prior to the conversation that Sue Ellen's plan is already in motion. She's just coming to terms with it and recognizing what kinds of boundaries she'll have to set up once she's gone. That said, the episode does give us some parallels to the title, with the bulk of the second thoughts being about Lucy and her disintegrating relationship with Alan Beam. Of course, a lot of this is Alan Beam's own doing as he flew too close to the sun on wings of pastrami. The ironic machinations of the plot are actually my favorite part of the episode. Through no knowledge or malice of his own, Jock inadvertently ruined the plans of the two sleaziest men on the show and protected his own granddaughter. Jock's job offer gives Alan what he thinks is the chip he needs to get out from under JR, metaphorically, and call his own shots in Dallas. So he gives up Betty Lou and JR, but his defiance just triggers JR to scheme a way to break up Lucy and Alan, which costs Alan the job offer that started him down this power trip in the first place. Irony can be so ironic sometimes.